In recent days, a real storm has erupted in global media. According to reports from leading outlets such as the Financial Times and Bloomberg, as well as insiders in the Chinese food industry, Nongfu Spring, the largest beverage producer in China, has done what for decades was considered impossible. With about 90% accuracy, they managed to reproduce the recipe of Coca-Cola, one of the most closely guarded trade secrets in history. In the industry, this is called a sensation, since for more than 100 years, dozens of competitors tried to replicate the formula of cola, but each time failed, achieving only similar versions but never the identical taste. Now, China, which has long sought to create its own global brands, appears to have taken a step capable of shaking the position of a legend of American business. According to sources close to the leadership of Nongfu Spring, the company used a whole range of modern technologies, from molecular-level chemical analysis to artificial intelligence trained on millions of flavor combinations. This is what allowed Chinese specialists to come close to the original taste that until now was considered unique. However, it should be noted that the replication is not 100%. Experts point out that a professional taster will distinguish the Nongfu drink from Coca-Cola, but for the ordinary consumer, the difference is minimal. In Beijing, this is presented as a breakthrough that could pave the way for a massive advertising campaign and expansion of the Chinese brand's influence on the international stage. Nevertheless, insiders at the Wall Street Journal note that it is premature to say that Coca-Cola will be on the verge of closure. Coca-Cola is not just a beverage. Over decades, the company has become a symbol of the American dream, part of the cultural code of the West. The red and white logo has become an integral attribute of Christmas, the Olympic Games, and advertising campaigns uniting millions of people. For many generations, cola is not about the taste of caramel or carbonation, but about emotions, lifestyle, and part of global identity. That is why billions of consumers around the world will not massively switch from the familiar brand to its Chinese counterpart, even if it turns out to be cheaper or nearly identical in taste. However, analysts emphasize that Coca-Cola's position will inevitably be shaken. In conditions where China possesses enormous production capacity and can organize aggressive promotion of the new product in the markets of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, the American company will have to spend additional billions of dollars to strengthen its image and protect its brand. Nikkei Asia already reports that Nongfu Spring is preparing a large-scale advertising campaign targeting the younger generation, which is less attached to Western symbols and much more willing to try new brands. If the Chinese manage to link their drink to healthy lifestyle trends, minimal sugar content, and fair pricing, this could create serious competition in markets where Coca-Cola still feels confident. Interestingly, Coca-Cola itself has not given official comments, but Reuters sources within the corporation report that working groups have already been created in Atlanta to analyze risks. The company's lawyers are considering legal actions in the event that the use of illegal methods in copying the formula is proven. Economists warn, however, that even if Coca-Cola tries to resort to sanctions or restrictions, proving direct violation will be extremely difficult, since the Nongfu Spring formula differs by at least those 10%. That means legally it may already be treated as a new product rather than a full copy. On stock markets, the news caused a mixed reaction. Coca-Cola shares on the New York Stock Exchange fell by several percent, which CNBC analysts describe as an emotional reaction of investors. At the same time, Nongfu Spring stock on the Hong Kong Exchange rose sharply, showing Asian investors confidence that the Chinese indeed have a chance to challenge the American giant. Experts emphasize that even if the drink cannot fully replace Coca-Cola, the mere threat of competition may change the balance of power in the global soft drinks industry. In the long term, analysts at The Economist believe this story will become part of a broader picture of the economic confrontation between the United States and China. If earlier the focus was on semiconductors, electronics, or military technologies, now even symbols of soft power are under pressure. Coca-Cola has always been more than a business. It was an element of American influence that spread across the world, together with music, cinema, and fast food. Now, China is showing that it is capable of challenging even in areas where competition once seemed impossible, in the very realm of cultural branding. Thus, This is not just a story about a copy of a drink. It is part of a global process in which China is trying to rewrite the rules of the game, and the United States is forced to defend even those positions that for decades were considered untouchable. And although Coca-Cola will likely retain leadership thanks to its history, symbolism, and massive advertising budgets, the appearance of a Chinese equivalent is a warning signal for the entire industry, because if it is possible to replicate the most sacred of American brands, it means other established symbols can also be challenged. And this is what makes the news so loud and dangerous for the future of the global market. When considering possible steps the United States might take in response to the challenge from Nongfu Spring, experts agree that Washington is unlikely to sit idly by. According to Politico, citing sources in the White House, the administration is already discussing scenarios in which Coca-Cola could receive government support at the level of a cultural brand of national importance. This would mean that the brand could be included in programs promoting American values abroad, effectively elevating it to a tool of soft diplomacy. After all, Coca-Cola has for decades remained one of the calling cards of the United States, and the loss of such a symbol could be perceived as a blow to national identity. Some analysts suggest that the United States could also use trade and legal mechanisms. In particular, this could involve restrictions on the import of Nongfu Spring products into Western countries, under the pretext of unfair competition or the use of foreign intellectual property. Of course, proving direct copying will be difficult, but the mere fact of an investigation by American or European antitrust authorities could cool investor enthusiasm and slow the expansion of the Chinese drink. Not all experts, however, believe in the effectiveness of coercive measures. Harvard Business Review notes that the main battle will unfold not in courts or trade chambers, but in the minds of consumers. Coca-Cola will need to strengthen the emotional component of its brand, launching new advertising campaigns, tying the drink even more closely to holidays, cultural events, and the American way of life. In other words, if Nongfu Spring plays on the field of taste and price, Coca-Cola must play on the field of emotions, symbols, and history, where it still has no equal. Interestingly, some insiders cited by Axios claim that Coca-Cola headquarters is already discussing the idea of creating a limited edition drink with an emphasis on premium quality and the uniqueness of the original recipe. The intention of marketers is to highlight that there is only one real cola and everything else is just an imitation. Such a move could create a psychological barrier for consumers. Even if the Chinese version tastes similar, it will always be perceived as secondary. At the same time, in the United States, there is recognition that the threat lies not only in the copy of the drink, but also in the symbolism of the situation. If China managed to come close to the Coca-Cola formula, it means it is capable of shaking other pillars of Western branding. In this sense, the issue is not simply about the soft drinks market, but about global competition of ideas, symbols, and cultural codes. The question is whether the United States will be able to maintain its leadership, or whether the world is entering a new era in which even the most enduring symbols of the American way of life cease to be untouchable.